In every human being there is, besides what we call the workaday man, a higher being. This higher being remains concealed until it is awakened. Until a seeker feels this magic force within him, he must continue to follow strictly and earnestly the rules given. The day will come when a spiritual light is revealed to him and a whole new world is discerned by an eye within him. Please watch on for the reflective spiritual insights of Dr. Rudolf Steiner.
Born in 1861, Dr. Rudolf Steiner was a great Austrian polymath, philosopher, and scientist who made influential contributions in the fields of education, science, spirituality, and medicine. He is perhaps best known for pioneering the holistic educational methods for the Waldorf schools. An eloquent public speaker and gifted writer, he gave over 6,000 lectures in his lifetime and gained recognition as a literary critic. His writings cover a wide range of subjects, and he published more than 25 books, including Mysticism at the Dawn of the Modern Age, The Way of Initiation, and Intuitive Thinking as a Spiritual Path, The Philosophy of Freedom. He developed and taught an esoteric spiritual philosophy called anthroposophy, based on the science of the spirit. We now continue with Dr. Rudolf Steiner's engaging and detailed elaboration on the path of discipleship. The admired philosopher delivers caring advice on how one can get in touch with one's higher self in order to live a more enlightened life of true inner freedom and completeness. The path of discipleship. Our aim in moments of retirement must be to contemplate and judge our own experiences and actions as though it were not ourselves but some other person to whom they applied. Suppose, for example, that a certain misfortune has befallen someone, but a different attitude that person takes towards it as compared with an identical misfortune that has befallen his neighbor. No one can blame this attitude as unjustifiable. It is a part of human nature. And just as it is in exceptional circumstances, so it is also in the daily affairs of life. The student must endeavor to attain the power of regarding himself at certain times as he would regard a stranger. He must contemplate himself with the inward calm of the critic. When this is attained, our own experiences present themselves in a new light. As long as we are interwoven with them and are, as it were, within them, we are as closely connected with the unreal as with the real. When we attain to a calm survey, the real is separated from the unreal. Sorrow and joy, every thought, every resolve, appear changed when we contemplate ourselves in this way. It is as though we had spent the whole day in a place where we saw the smallest objects at the same range of vision as the largest ones, and in the evening climbed a neighboring hill and surveyed the whole scene at once. Then the parts of the place take on proportions different from those they bore when seen from within. The value of such calm inward contemplation depends less on the actual thing we contemplate than on the power which such inward calm develops in us. For in every human being there is, besides what we call the workaday man, a higher being. This higher being remains concealed until it is awakened, and each of us can only awaken it for himself. But as long as this higher being is not awakened, the higher faculties that might lead to supersensual knowledge must lie dormant or remain hidden in every man. This power which leads to inward calm is a magic force that sets free certain higher faculties. Until a seeker feels this magic force within him, he must continue to follow strictly and earnestly the rules given. To every man who thus perseveres, the day will come when a spiritual light is revealed to him, and a whole new world, whose existence was hitherto unsuspected, is discerned by an eye within him. Because he begins to follow this rule, there is no need for any outward change in the life of the student. He performs his duties as before, and at first he endures the same sorrows and experiences the same joys as of old. In no way does it estrange him from life. Rather, he is enabled to devote himself to it the more completely, because in the moments set apart, he has a higher life of his own. Gradually, this higher life will make its influence felt on the ordinary life. The calm of the moments set apart will influence his ordinary existence as well. The whole man will grow calmer, will attain serenity in all his actions, and will cease to be perturbed by all manner of incidents. Gradually, a student who thus advances will guide himself more and more, and be less governed by circumstances and external influences. Such a man will soon discover how great a source of strength lies for him in these periods of contemplation. He will cease to be annoyed by things that formerly worried him, and countless matters that once filled him with fear will now cease to alarm him. He acquires a new outlook on life. Formerly, he may have taken up this or that task with a sense of timidity. He would say, "I lack the power to do this as well as I could wish." Now he no longer admits such a thought, but instead forms one quite different. He says to himself, "I will summon all my strength in order to do my work as well as I possibly can." And he suppresses the thought which encourages timidity, for he knows that this very timidity might spoil his undertaking, and that in any event it can contribute nothing to the improvement of his labor. And thus, one thought after another, each fraught with advantage to his whole life, begins to penetrate the student's outlook. They take the place of those which gave a hampering and weakening effect. He begins to steer his own ship on a firm, secure course among the waves of life, which formerly tossed it helplessly to and fro. And this calm and serenity react on the whole being. They assist the growth of the inner man and of those inner faculties which lead to higher knowledge. For it is by his progress in this direction that the student gradually attains to a state in which he himself determines the manner in which the impressions of the external world shall affect him. Thus, he may hear a word spoken with the object of wounding or vexing him. Before he began his occult studies, it would indeed have been painful or irritating. But now that he is in the path of discipleship, he is able to take from it the sting or the power to hurt, even before it enters his consciousness. Take another example. We naturally grow impatient when we are kept waiting, but the student is so permeated in his moments of calm with the realization of the uselessness of impatience, that this calmness is present with him on every occasion. The impatience which would naturally overcome him vanishes, and an interval which would otherwise have been wasted in the expression of impatience may be utilized by making some profitable observation during the period of waiting. Now we must realize the significance of these facts. We must remember that the higher being in a man is in constant development, and only the state of calm and serenity here described renders an orderly development possible. The waves of outward life press in upon the inner man from all sides, if instead of controlling this outward life, he is controlled by it. Such a man is like a plant which tries to expand in a cleft in the rock, and is stunted in its growth until new space is given to it. No outward forces can supply space for the inner man. It can only be supplied by the inner calm, which he may give to his soul. Outward circumstances can only alter the course of his outward life. They can never awaken the spiritual inner man. The student must himself give birth to the new and higher man within him. The higher man becomes the inner ruler who directs the circumstances of the outer man with sure guidance. As long as the latter has the upper hand, this inner man is enslaved and cannot, therefore, develop his powers. If another than myself has the power to make me angry, I am not master of myself, or, to put it better, I have not yet found the ruler within me. I must develop the power within of letting the impressions of the outer world approach me only in the way in which I myself choose. Then only do I really become an occult student, and only by earnestly striving after this power can a student reach the goal. It is not of so much importance to achieve a great deal in a given time as to be earnest in the search. Many have striven for years without noticing any marked advance, but many of those who did not despair and struggled on undaunted have sometimes quite suddenly achieved the inner victory. Com viewers, we thank you for joining us on today's program titled The Path of Discipleship by Dr. Rudolf Steiner, Vegetarian, Part 2 of 2, on Words of Wisdom.